Hello there guys, this is Teacher Krishna and welcome to our next class for the third unit. This is a class that is part of Behave School and 8th BYS. Our subject, just like you know, is science, and of course we're going to be working on week number 24 today. So be welcome everyone. And first of all, remember to have your notebook with you in order to make today's summary. And what parts do you need to include in your summary? Number 1, date. Number 2, end in mind. Number 3, the title. Number 4, the summary itself. And number 5, some additional correction to your notes. And today we're going to be studying lesson number 3, precipitation. You will find this topic in pages 126 to 131. Our end in mind for today is the following. Explain the different types of precipitation and the causes and effects of floods and droughts. Alright, so a little observation. It's very important to have the end in mind in your summary, so make sure to write it down. Alright, let me give you a small summary of the activities today. So first of all, watch the video and make a summary. Of course, the video that you are watching right now. Then read lesson number 3 and complement a little bit your summary. It's always very important that you read all the lesson that we studied during the day. And next activity, complete the books exercises in pages 126 to 131. So you notice that it says focus on 130 and 131. So those are the pages that we are going to complete during the mid-session. So please complete the activities from 126 to 129. The exercises in 130 and 131 will be completed during the mid-session. All right? So let's start with our topic for today. It is something very simple, and you already have some background knowledge about this topic. The title is precipitation. And this is a very interesting instrument that is going to help us out to measure how much it has rained. So let's take a look at some information right here. So scientists can shoot tiny crystals of silver in iodide into the air to increase rain in a 10%. So this is especially intriguing for farmers, because there are certain, let's say, seasons in which there is not that much rain. So if they actually want to increase a little bit more the rain that is being produced, they shoot silver crystals of iodide to the atmosphere. I recommend that you take a look at the instrument that they use that is found on the first page of this topic, because the instrument they use is very interesting. And precipitation, what is it? It is any kind of water that falls from clouds. And precipitation is vital in the water cycle. So remember that in the water cycle we have evaporation, condensation, and after condensation we are going to have the precipitation. And it is crucial because all of the water that is going to the atmosphere needs to come back to the ground to repeat the process over and over again. We have types of precipitation. These are all the types of precipitation that we are going to find on Earth, which are going to be rain, sleet, freezing rain, snow, and hail. Anyways, we're going to study them a little bit later on. We're going to start by analyzing what rain is. And it is the most common type of precipitation. And of course, if liquid water is coming from the sky, it ends up being water when it touches the ground, and we are going to consider it as rain. But we need to analyze the diameter of the drops that are coming to the ground. So if the drops are at least 0.5 millimeters, then they will be considered as rain. But if the drops are smaller than that, they are going to be a drizzle. And of course, if the water drops are even smaller than drizzle, we are going to consider them as mist. All right. And measuring rain. How can we measure how much it has rained in a day or in a certain period of time? Well, for that, we need a rain gauge. And of course, it's the instrument that you can see on our right. It gathers rain and shows the amount according to a scale. And to know the actual depth of rain, the scale is divided by 10. So right over here, you have our rain gauge, right? So you can notice that it is measured in millimeters. So for example, let's say that we have 20 millimeters of rain right here in our rain gauge. Then we are going to divide that by 10. So 20 divided by 2 will equal, oh, I'm sorry, 20 divided by 10 will equal 2. There you go. So in total, we will say that 2 centimeters have rain, okay? How do we say that there are 2 centimeters? So let's say that here is the ground. So from the ground to the top, there will be 2 centimeters. That will be the measure that we are actually analyzing right here. Right, so let's continue. And since we are talking about types of rain, we're going to explain a little bit more about each one of them. And here you have the types of rain that we mentioned before: rain, snow, sleet, and hail. And it's very important that we take a look at it as well. There is one that is not mentioned in the picture, which is freezing rain. So what is it? It is a regular rain that freezes when it gets in contact with a cold object. So freezing rain is typical of very cold places. Like we can talk about some places in the United States in which the weather is very cold, that it is going to drop the temperature of several objects. So when rain falls down to the ground and it gets in contact with those objects, it is going to immediately freeze. That is why it is called freezing rain. We have snow, and it forms when water vapor turns automatically into snowflakes. So in order for this to happen, remember that we need to analyze the dew point. So the dew point needs to be below the freezing point. So when the temperature is below the freezing point, the water vapor is going to turn directly into ice crystals, which in this case are going to be snowflakes. And later on, when precipitation happens, it will come down as the snowflakes that we know. Then we have hail. It is a round pellet of ice. It is larger than 5 millimeters. They are only formed in cumulonimbus clouds during thunderstorm. And ice forms, and when it goes through the cold area of the cloud, a new layer of ice is added. So let's suppose that we have hail right now, and you take a little piece of that hail. So if you cut it right in the middle, then you are going to notice that it is similar to an onion. Like it has different layers, right? But why does that happen in that way? So at first we're going to have a small piece of ice or a small piece of hail. So hail has to go through all of the cloud, but in the cloud there are going to be several places where it is going to have a very low temperature. So let's suppose that this is the first piece of hail that we have. After it goes through those cold places, another layer is added up, and so on and so forth. It continues adding layers and layers until we have a bigger piece of hail that later on is going to come down to the ground. And lastly, we have sleet, and it happens when rain freezes while it falls. So this is interesting because notice that we have two types. We have freezing rain and sleet. So what is the difference? Freezing rain is water that it turns into ice, but when it touches objects. And sleet is going to form when rain is coming down to the ground, but it turns into ice while it is coming down. It is not getting in contact with any other object before touching the ground. So in the air, it is going to turn into ice, right? Now we have measuring snow. So measuring snow is something very simple. So since there is supposed to be like a layer of snow from the ground to the top, then you can use a measuring tape like this one right here in order to measure how many centimeters went above. So let's continue. There you go. So it can be measured by using a stick, or in this case, a tape measure, and find out about the centimeters it covered the ground, or by melting ice and analyzing how much it produced. And something very important to take into consideration is that 10 centimeters of snow contain the same water as 1 centimeter, all right? So here is the difference. Like 1 centimeter of water can be like expressed as 10 centimeters of snow. And why is that? Well, what happens is that the density in water and in snow is different. So what happens is that probably we have the same amount of matter or the same amount of water or snow, but the density is going to be different, in which in water is going to be way smaller and in snow is going to be way larger. All right, now we have causes and effects of floods. And here we have a dam. I'm going to tell you why that is related to floods right now. So what are floods in first place? So it happens when rivers or lakes overflow, and they affect areas that are usually dry. So when there is a change in the density of a river or a lake, what's going to happen is that water is going to come out of those water portions. So basically they are going to affect the well, in this case, we talk about humans, the people that live around those portions of water. You have causes and effects. Not all floods are so destructive. So if it's very little, then it is not going to damage anything at all. But if it's way too large, then definitely it's going to affect the land and probably some buildings around. Many floods take place when the volume of a river increases. And how can we increase the volume of a river? Well, it happens because of a very drastic rain or the melting of snow. Any of both reasons can happen. And people prevent floods from happening by using dams or levees. So this one right here is a dam. So what happens is that people are going to control the amount of water by having this structure somehow blocking or controlling the water right here. And levees are some structures that are also put around the rivers in order to prevent the floods. Okay? Oh, okay, so we got to the end of our presentation. That'll be it for today, guys. So thank you a lot for coming, and I will see you next week. Always take care of yourselves, and it's been great to have you here. Goodbye.